And we're live. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to the Mojo Show, your real estate podcast where we talk about everything real estate. I'm your host, Joe Mortgage.
And I'm Cup of Joe Mortgage.
And this week's episode, we are continuing on our journey through PAPCAR. If you haven't tuned in before, PAPCAR, we've been going through each step of it, and PAPCAR, PAPCAR, of course, each letter has its own acronym standing for, right? So P being the prospecting, A, the appointment, P, presentation or to present, and today we get to go into the C, the close. But before we get to all of that, Little Birdie told me something. What's today? The 14th of February?
I think so. I will give a quick shout out to my wife. Happy Valentine's Day, Tina. The funny thing is we were kind of sitting there talking about it this morning, Joe, and it was 20 years ago today that was kind of that deciding factor that we were going to, long term. And
really?
I gave her a card. And it was a golden retriever card because that was her favorite dog. And I wrote in the card something stupid like, once I know this is a legit relationship, I'll get you a real dog. And she didn't take that one that well. But then all of a sudden I excused myself, went next door to my buddy's house and got the dog that I already bought her and let it run in the house. Yeah. We were talking about that this morning. 20 years ago today. Is when we kind of solidified our relationship and we owned a dog together. So April of 04.
You romantic guy, you.
Yeah, no.
Look at
get myself in trouble and then I just have to dig myself out of that hole. So but give a shout out to my wife on today, Valentine's Day. So but the one thing that I'm so happy about, with Valentine's Day,
what's that?
Is my kids are in high school and I don't have to do those elementary Valentine's Day cards and make a box. I was not the dad that enjoyed doing those things.
Okay.
I love my kids. I want to, enjoy different holidays with them and stuff like that. But this is not the one that I liked giving cards to everybody.
Right.
So.
Right. Wow.
So have you gotten out and done any golfing or anything yet?
Boy, when did I play? I wanted to say, of course, I played back on my birthday. That was awesome. To finally be able to, end of January, to be able to play golf. I've never been able to really do that before, and living in Michigan, so pretty cool to be here in Texas to be able to play golf on my birthday.
That's awesome.
I think I hit the driving range the other day just to kind of warm up and that, but yeah, not too much. But speaking of which, not that that's a good segue into the market, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the market just briefly because we've got a lot of great information today in regards to PAPCAR, and I do want to dive into it. But before we get into that, yesterday was a big day that the Feds announced the CPI report that came out.
Right.
Didn't look like very good news, Joe.
Well, last week it wasn't yesterday was not the best news for us with the CPI and the inflation. They're still kind of higher than what forecasted, higher than what was expected. So it kind of caused a rift in the pricing for the interest rates yesterday, where we lost some ground that we were gaining. And I actually, Joe, I had a conversation with my client last night because we got a contract in, on Saturday. And then we went through inspections and everything else. And Monday they were like, okay, hey, it's time for us to move forward. Let's, go ahead and get the appraisal ordered. And last night we were talking about what happened in the market and just where the pricing's at. And, it was a great conversation because it's nothing that we're in control of.
Right.
And, the conversation that I had with the client, and it kind of leads into today's talk too, is, what we talked about last week was building relationships, building on that presentation, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And having that honest conversation with the client last night was awesome. And because they were willing to listen, they understood what was going on. And, today I'm hoping that we get a little bit of a little bit back on what we lost yesterday. So you know how that always happens. It's bad news comes out and everybody reacts the wrong way.
Yeah,
So
knee-jerk reaction to it all, and
that's
give it a
right.
few days or a week, and it kind of calms down a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and before we get into the topics, anybody that's listening or tunes in, please make sure that you put comments, or ask questions in our notes or in the comment log,
please.
and make sure you subscribe for us too, so we can get that YouTube channel going better.
A nice plug.
I'm
Like
plugging
that,
it
Joe.
out there. We're
Absolutely.
gonna mess this show all up, Joe. I'm gonna throw you off of your game today. That's my goal. My goal for
That's your goal
Valentine's
today.
Day is to throw Joe off. I'm just kidding.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I need that. Right, keep me on my toes as you always do. I appreciate
Right.
it so much, Joe. Truly. So let's jump into closing as far as a part of PAPCAR. I mean, now that, as we go through the steps of prospecting and then setting the appointment, and at the appointment doing the right presentation, building the relationship and everything, moving then into the closing. I mean, I sometimes fumble with this, I have to admit. And of course, I'm one of those, though, that if I have a kind of a step-by-step to follow every single time, right, at least almost like a formula, if you will, then I'm able to successfully, stride right through it
Right.
without any hiccups. So for you, Joe, how do you go through? I mean, do you have like a formula or something that you constantly use to be able to be successful in closing?
I wish I could say yes all the time, but I do have a couple little things that I do. Closing is a hard thing to do if you
It's an
don't
art.
if you don't get the right information from the person you're talking to. I don't care if it's a realtor that we're talking to, a builder that we're talking to. I don't care if the realtor is talking to a possible listing appointment. What we find in closing, and over the years that I've been doing this and having teams, you have really good people that do closing well. And then you have people that think they do closing well, but what they're doing is they're asking and trying to close before they actually build on what either a solution might be for somebody. So a big one is, we're all about those acronyms and, different meanings, right? And there's one, and I've heard this through a couple of different sources, but, one of our leaders here and one of my, business partners and great friends, Nash Paradise, he really believes in this one, and it's CPR. It can be a lot of meanings, right? And you can bring people back alive. And if you do it the right way for that one, but if you do CPR correctly, then it can actually help you with closing. And what I mean by CPR in this one is you have cut, press, and remedy,
Okay.
And so whenever you're talking with somebody, what I do is I'm asking them, okay, tell me a little bit about your business, during that presentation. And I'm asking the questions to try to find out where are some of their struggles, either in their business or with their lending partner, because with that, I can take that information and truly listen to what their issue is. And with the cut, you want to press on that cut a little bit, right? So if you have somebody that is like, communication, I think everybody says communication because it's the easiest one, and everybody says they're good at it, but nobody truly is. So if somebody says it's communication, or if they don't close on time, it could be, they don't like the pictures. If you're a listing agent and you're not getting professional pictures done, the past experience from somebody that hired on an expired listing might be that they feel like it wasn't marketed correctly. Okay. So you have to ask those questions to find out what it was. And then you have to ask deepening questions on that pain. Right. So it's kind of like pressing on a cut. Now, you got pain in there. So you're pressing now to get more information on what is their true reason for either meeting with you, or what is their goal for the outcome. So you ask those deepening questions about, okay, tell me about your last experience, with the agent that you were using. If you're on a listing appointment, if it's me, I'm asking the agent, tell me about your last experience with your lender. You're currently in one right now. I mean, how many times have we saved people's loans? We do it a lot, but if you don't ask those deepening questions, it's all superficial, you
Right.
know? So it's pressing on that issue to gain more knowledge. And then while you're listening to them, you don't just go in with the straight fix right away. You start asking
Right.
questions, guiding them to what you possibly could do to, make that better, or have a redemption of how to overcome that issue.
Hmm.
So I use CPR in those questionings to really drive something home, to understand what maybe their problem was, before I then go in and give a value of what I gathered from them on those three issues.
And
So
it sounds like a lot of this, though, is covered kind of as a part of the last key to PAPCAR, which was presentation, right? As
it
far as
is, but
going through in your presentation, yes, you're building that relationship, which we really stressed about last week. But I think as well, it sounds like this kind of curtails into the presentation, drawing towards the close. Am I
right,
correct?
right. And so closing is part of your presentation, because if you don't do the
Yep.
presentation correctly, you can't get to the end. And that's one of our topics today that we're going to talk about, is the ending part.
Right.
But when you're doing a presentation, it's about gathering the information to show what your true value is.
But
And
if
so
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead. You were going to ask a question.
Oh, you're gonna try to throw me off again, huh? So the in doing so, though, I mean, you're trying to gather the information so that then you can give value, but it sounds like you're not given the answer to the solution right away.
No, you do it in steps, in my opinion. Because it's just I contribute everything to what I've learned over the last 20 years in my relationship with my wife. Is I'm always gung ho to try to fix an issue. Well, if you try to fix it before you know all the details of it, then you're dismissing the person that's trying to talk to you. And so, that's why there are steps to it. And that's why I like the CPR, because it
Mhm.
kind of leads you to the next steps of how to get the close done. Because if I can fix the problem that you had, it gives me more of a chance to actually gain more business from you, or at least gain the chance of earning your business.
That credibility,
Yes,
right?
and that's the thing, right? I'm going to kind of lead us to the next part of it. Is once you do that, then it's what other things are you doing to set yourself apart, and value,
Right.
and what your value is. Because everybody says the same thing. Oh, I communicate well. I do this great. I do marketing great.
Mhm.
I can close loans quick. Great.
Right.
That doesn't mean anything. It's all superficial.
Right. What differentiates you, though, right? What sets you apart, as we were talking last week, what differentiates you and sets you apart from everyone else?
Yeah. And so I use my value and kind of my value statements, to gain clients, gain referrals. I do this with my realtors. I do it with my clients that I'm closing. I do it with my friends and family. Is I gain a genuine relationship. I'm a genuine person. From what other people tell me, it's not just me
You
bragging
are.
on myself, because
You are. No
this
doubt
is the
you are.
hardest thing that I can do, is talk about myself in a positive way. I am probably the most negative when it comes to my own ability to do things. But if you actually care about fixing an issue, then you do the steps to make sure that they don't have that issue again. So my value is I'm gonna have a relationship with you. I'm gonna be transparent. We're going to be able to have a real conversation, like I did with my client last night. Market
Mhm.
moves. We're going to have a conversation about it. And at the end of it, there's a trust. And that's where my value is people trust me to take care of them. They trust me to do the things the right way. And if I'm not in that circle of trust with them, and triangle of trust is probably the better way of putting it, because there's three of us. There's your realtor, there's
Mhm.
you, and then there's the client.
Yep.
So that trust, I bring that into my close and into my value. you know, sorry, I keep saying, sorry guys, it's something I've got to work on. But when I'm talking to my referral partners, I'm going to give you my value after I figured out a resolution to your issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to be able to fix all of them. So I'm going to find one issue and I'm going to pinpoint on that one until I prove to that person that they can trust that I'm not going to do that same, concern that they've had with their previous person.
So for you, what is a good, I know there's a lot of different values that you have to lean on. What is a value statement that you put out there for your client or your realtor partners, that is consistent with you?
So when I go into it, it kind of leads into asking for business at the same time, because I'll be like, okay, so Joe, we just talked about, on your business, you're sitting there, you're not getting the communication on why things are happening or why something has changed. You're getting a lot of blame from somebody, blaming an underwriter or blaming another company. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to give you all transparency, give you the communication you're wanting. But on top of that, I'm going to follow it up with a video that every time we have a talk, or if I talk to one of your clients, I'm going to follow it up with a video on what I talked to your client about directly, so you can see what we went over. And it's not going to be about our communication going back and forth. It's going to be the follow-up to what the client and I had a conversation with. Then what I'm going to do on top of that is I'm going to follow that piece up with the true documentation that shows you everything. So there is no communication gap between you, the client, and myself. On top of that, what I'm going to do is on a weekly basis, you're going to be talking with me on Tuesdays. So every Tuesday, we're going to get on a phone call. We're going to make sure that, we talk through any leads that you've given us. But with that too, is we're going to be on group text messages with you, me, and the client. So that way, every time I touch base with them. And if you don't want that, that's fine. Then I'll just do it in a weekly email. So my value is transparency on all my communication. My other value is I'm going to be the one that you're going to call, and I pick up my phone. I'm not somebody that sets appointments all the time. I'm a phone answerer. Not everybody is, but that is a value to me because I believe in that.
So after 5 o'clock, if they call you, after 5 o'clock.
My conversation was last night at 8:30 after my daughter's softball game while I was making dinner. So, it is. So, some people might say that that's not a true value. Let's be honest. We've heard that.
Yep. Well,
it is a value to people that want to work with me. Because they want that transparency. They want that communication. They want to be able to call. Like right now, Jennifer Buchanan, which is one of my great partners that I deal with. She called me, and she knows I'm on a podcast, but I'll call her back once we're done. So Jennifer, if you're listening, we wanted to give you a shout out. But
we need to have her on the show sometime.
Yeah. We will work on that together.
Good.
But that's a value to me. And if I bring that across to the person that I truly believe in it, well, then they're going to pick up on that's where I am a value. So
I think those phone calls in the evening are so important, right? I know a lot of banks, they're 9 to 5, as we kind of say. Most people are working those hours, right? Our clients are. So what time do they have? The evenings. That's when they have the time, because they're working during the day. And if they have any concerns, that they're stressed about or anything, I want to get them answered now. I don't care if it is 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'd rather answer them now, and instead of them going to bed with all this stress and can't sleep and worried, and then how are they going to wake up and start their day, right? I would rather get that resolved tonight, with that phone conversation, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. It's opening that up. So a lot of people, like you said, don't think that's a big thing, but when it comes down to it and it happens, it is a big thing.
Yeah. And I always think, we have 54 loan originators that work for our branch. If they reach out to me and I don't I don't answer that phone call. What do they do next? They reach out to somebody else, or they go on to our communicator and they ask the question in 3 different chats. People want, they want the touch. They want the question answered when they have it. Well, clients are the same. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Clients are the same. So if you're not the one that's answering your phone and you're the communication with them in the beginning, then they're going to look elsewhere. And there's a lot of people like us that do the right thing for clients. So to set myself apart is I'm the one that's going to be communicating. And I tell them, I'm going to text you back right away. I'm going to answer that phone call. I also tell them I usually shut my phone off around 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, but I don't really ever shut it off. It's just that way I don't have to answer until the next morning, but that's how late I'm usually on the phone. I've had conversations at 1 o'clock in the morning with real estate agents going back and forth. So to me, that's a value. To some of the people out there, that's a value. And so that's why that's part of me.
Well, and it shows your work ethics as well, for the client and for the realtor, right? For the referral partners and that.
Well, so I'm going to swing this back at you. What is your value statement?
My value. Well, you are trying to get me off, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm not doing all the talking today.
And for me, the value statements really is the value that it depends, Joe, on if I'm talking to a client or to a realtor, right? So for the realtor, because you've been talking about the client, so let me focus on the realtor for a second, right? As far as building value there, I'm one that I want to be able to let them know that, hey, I'm not just going to sit back and wait for you to bring me a client, right? Which that's kind of the stereotype in our industry, unfortunately. I want to be able to promote you, okay? Whether it's across social media, whether it's having them on this show, right? And give them a platform to speak on. I want to build them up and build value. I want to be there at the open houses and helping them. I want to promote all of their open houses. I want to be able to promote them, the co-branding on marketing materials and everything. I want them to be able to be set on a pedestal for everybody to see, right? Because can you and I give good rates and say we have communication and quick turn times to CTC? Well, yeah, everybody says that. We were talking about that last week, right? Everybody says that. So what differentiates you? What value do you bring? Well, I go beyond that for the realtors, right? For me, it's because with them, I don't want this to just be transactions back and forth, right? I want this to be a partnership. I want this to be something that I help them grow their business, right? And if there's a certain sector that they focus on, if it's investment properties, if it's first-time home buyers, we're going to do seminars on that, right? To be able to help gain and bring people into them. So it's, for me, that's the value that I bring to realtors, because I want to help grow their business. Because if I help grow their business, what's going to happen, Joe?
They're going to trust you and everything.
They're going to help grow my business, right back. And that's the partnership, right? That I look for. So that for me, especially with realtors, that's where my value comes in. But after we've built the value, I love your CPR, by the way. I know Nash does that. But once we build the value in that helps set things up for the next part, which is, I think, at least for me, I have a hard time with this. I don't know why, and I got to get over this hurdle. It's still after all these years, but it's asking for the business.
That's very true.
That's
asking for the business. And, we talk about this, and we've been talking about this for 25 minutes now. And when it comes to all of these things, it's back to back to back to be able to get to asking for the business.
Right.
And, what we all do is we stop at that trust and that value. And we've got to push through, because now if I've already found out your issues, I've already come up with things, I've already given you my value. Now that's my opportunity to say, okay, Joe, with all of that, do you think that, we can do business together? And you ask that and you stop. right? And if they say no, then you got to figure out how, why, and all that stuff.
Yep.
But if they say, yeah, I feel that way, well, great. Your next 3 clients, I want to talk with them. I want to show you what we just discussed. Do you think we can, work on the next 3 clients that you have where I can show you the value and be able to do that for you? If you put it back to those things that you learned on CPR and you put it back to that value that you already put out there and you ask in those ways, you're getting them to say yes, or you're getting them to say no. Well, if I have people that are going to say no, guess what? That just gives me an opportunity to either meet with them again later on or go on to somebody else that does value the same relationship I'm looking for. A bad closing statement is better than no closing statement. And so what you have to do is you have to ask the question of, so if I could do this stuff for you that we just talked about, would that add value to you? Right. You can say it in different ways, but that's what you're trying to get out of them. Would that add value to you? Just like you on the open houses. If I market it with you, if I go out and put out signs, if I put it on social media and I'm pumping it up, would that actually add value to what you're trying to accomplish on getting people through the door? Yes. Okay. So on your next open house, I want to be that person that works it with you. So do you think we can set this up for next weekend? Right. Well, you're asking for the business right there just to even go and just get to know them better. It's still a close. You're still closing and asking that question. So it's about bringing that back in and asking it for their next client or for their next, listing, whatever it might be. You're asking to do it with them. And that's what your close is. And so that's what I like about it. And, Sam, I'm going to give him credit. That's where I've really learned. He really pinpoints that in our coaching on how to bring it back around. And I do like that because now I can ask them all those things that we just talked about. If I can do this, would it better you? And the majority of the time it's yes. I've had a couple barely say no, but it's probably my presentation more than anything. But, asking for that close and asking for the business, that's how you close on getting it.
So just to kind of recap a little bit. So essentially you start out with, the CPR, the cut, the press, and then the remedy, so to speak, and move into kind of your value statement. So you've uncovered the issue or the problem that they're having, right? But you don't just leave it hanging there. You kind of press on it to make them feel it, so to speak, before, bringing that remedy in and then building from there, building the value up so that then from the value you can move into the close, right? And asking for the business, right? That's pretty much
you summed it up. You summed up our 30-minute conversation
right there.
So it is nice to be able to flow through. It's hard to talk about because I'm trying to lead in from my CPR straight into value, straight into the close. And I'm trying to do that real quick. But if you believe in adding a value, just same thing like when we're recruiting loan originators, why you came to this branch was there's a value for it. And we believe in that value. We believe in our support staff. We believe in keeping them there. We believe as leaders that the 4 of us do a great job at sharing responsibilities. And there's a value. So we believe when we're bringing somebody on, we are the best fit for people that want to work hard. And we have the best support that's out there. So it's no different when I'm going to talk with clients or I'm going to talk with agents. I might not have the best rate. That builder might have an incentive that I can't give. But at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to make sure you're getting taken care of the best way. But if somebody's beating me that's an online lender by 0.25% in interest, I'm going to talk to you about what my value is and what you get from me. And is that $70 different in payment really worth you having to worry about, are we going to close? Is it worth trying to get somebody on the phone? Is it worth that? Because if it is to you, then that's fine. Right. It's not that same way to everybody. I'm not going to decrease my worth and my value just to try to win a deal. That's not, in my opinion, not the ethically right thing for that person. So.
I agree. Good stuff, Joe. Really good stuff. Appreciate you breaking all of this down for everybody. I hope as we kind of draw to a close already, amazingly, 30 minutes has already passed by. I
Get
know
me talking. I just keep going.
just wind you up, pull the string, and let you go.
Right.
Right. No, I do appreciate you coming on, and really helping to break this down for everyone, because the closing it can be tough, right? I don't know I know we're kind of in the last minute or so seconds of the show, but if you have comments of how you build value or what your value statement is, please pop it in the comments below. Would love to kind of see some of that. Or if you want to talk about this afterwards with Joe and I or one of us, feel free to email us, and we'll help work through with you. Maybe you don't have a good closing statement that you feel comfortable with, or how you present it and stuff. Email us, right? At Joe, what's the Mojo Show podcast at gmail.com. You can email us and we'll be glad to, connect up with you and help you with that. Next week, I do want to talk about next week, Joe. So next week, we're going to take it even further, dive even further into PAPCAR with the fifth key element, which is aftercare. Because after you've prospected, you scheduled an appointment, you presented and now closed successfully, as Joe pointed out and went through with us today. How do you take care of the client after that? Or is that it? Are you in an industry that once you close, that's it? That's the only time that you talk to the person. Well, if you want a raving client, right, a raving fan, there needs to be the aftercare. And that's what we're going to dive into next week. How do you take care of the client or your referral partners after your closing, right? So we'll dive into that next week. So definitely stay tuned next week and learn how to effectively take care of the client. I am going to ask everyone, first of all, everyone that has been listening, watching, thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. I ask that you please like, follow, share, and especially subscribe. I'm going to throw this plug in, Joe. So Joe and I are on a mission to be able to get to 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't been there yet, go to our YouTube channel, The Mojo Show Real Estate Podcast. Go there and subscribe to it. We really appreciate it so much. Before I sign everything off, though, Joe, any last words that might have for us?
I'm looking forward to next week. That aftercare, that is one thing that if you really want to gain more business, it don't matter what industry you're in, if it's in sales, those clients referring people to you, that aftercare really means something to keep you top of mind. So I'm really excited next week.
Awesome. Me too. Well, folks, have a great week. I am Joe Mortgage, and that handsome guy over there with the beard is Cup of Joe Mortgage, and we'll see you next week.
Mr.